Are you, like so many people, struggling with your squats? Do you feel like you should be able to get deeper? Do you feel out of position? Do you just generally feel that squats are way harder for you than they should be? Well, today we're going to explore that, find out why, and show you how to fix it. When it comes to squatting, we find there's two main areas of the lower body that cause the most amount of problems, and that's with restricted movement. And these come as your hips and your ankles. Today we're going to start at the ankles because they tend to be the first problem that we see. So why is ankle mobility so important? Well, I've set up a little test here to show you why. So I'm going to complete a normal squat, just a bodyweight squat of myself. I have very good ankle mobility or dorsiflexion, which is basically toes coming towards the shins. This allows me to send my knees past my toes. Again, this will be different for everyone, but for myself, I'm a tall lifter, so my knees will go past my toes. That allows me to keep a nice upright torso and hit a good range and depth on my squat comfortably. Now, conversely, if I do the complete opposite and I take away my mobility in my ankles by putting plates under my toes. Now, this is the worst thing. You'd never want to do this. It's actually taking away mobility from your ankles and range of motion. But look what it does to my squat. What happens now is I can't get my knees far forwards, so I don't have that range in the ankles. Now my bum has to shoot back and my chest has to come down to try and create depth. What that does, it puts unnecessary stress on the back. Think if there's a barbell on my back, or maybe I'm front squatting, the bar is now off my center point of gravity, and it just becomes a whole lot harder. So now lots of you will be doing squats and there'll be a bit of tight hips, there'll be some back issues maybe, and there'll be tight ankles. And you'll be like, well, I don't know which is the problem. It might be a bit of all of them. So what we're going to do today is we're going to explore the ankles, and I'm going to show you a very simple way to test your current ankle mobility or your dorsiflexion, and that's using a wall test. So all you're going to do is go barefoot or in your socks. Find yourself a blank wall, and I want you to use your palm or roughly 5 to 6 inches away from the wall, a marker, keeping your heel on the floor and stopping your ankle from rolling in or rolling out, keeping it nice and neutral. Can you get your knee to touch the wall? If you can't, then possibly we need to think about increasing the range of motion through our ankle through some stretches that we're going to show you next. So I'm going to take you through a bunch of exercise drills, mobility exercises, some foam rolling that you can do to start releasing off these tight areas now to increase your ankle mobility and make your squats bulletproof. So the first thing we want to do is we want to start looking at some myofascial release. We can use things like foam rollers, we can even use barbells here. And basically what I like to do is I like to start low on the foot, never on bones. You're right on your Achilles up to your calf, just below the knee and just above the ankle. Stay away from your bones. You can foam roll this. What I would do is I would work up towards the knee, working towards the heart, nice and slowly, slow, long strokes. If you find a point which is particularly tender, I want you to spend 20 to 30 seconds on that area, rolling backwards and forwards an inch. You might even want to just stay on that area and see if basically the pain kind of dies down. That is going to be a trigger point, maybe an adhesion that we can start to free off and give us more movement through this area. If you look at things like a frozen shoulder, where people lose the kind of mobility in that shoulder, that often comes down to what we call the fascia and the muscles getting stuck together. So you have muscles and you have fascia, which is kind of almost that thing like a skin underneath your skin that goes over the top of that. It's kind of like a mucousy kind of layer in between that. And if we don't move that and we don't get things moving, it becomes very sticky. So what we're trying to do with this foam rolling and this movement and this mobility is also free that off as well. Okay, so the next exercise you can use is also very simple. You can use a curb, a stair, a dumbbell, anything that forces you into dorsiflexion. Again, when the toes start coming towards the shins. One thing I want you to do when you're doing these stretches, and same when you squat, make sure your knees follow your toes. I don't want your foot to be here and then your knee to be miles inside your foot or really on the outside. I want your knee to be over your foot and in line. That keeps everything aligned and stops any kind of injuries or potential pressure on your ACL or any of those ligaments of the knee. What we're aiming to do here is find a point where we can feel tension in it. And it's basically, I'm not trying to wrench it and really force yourself. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to find a position where it feels tight, breathe through it and spend maybe 20 to 30 seconds here, but do it multiple times. It's up to you how long you want to spend there, but start to listen to your body and understand what's too much, because I can promise you, if it comes to your hips or something like that and you spend a long time stretching, you can feel it the next day. One of the more progressive stretches, and actually my favorite, I am a big fan of loaded movements, and that's movements when there's weight involved. I think that's one of the best ways to increase your mobility and your flexibility, because you're going through a range of motion that you might be working already, but also you have that added load. This is why you'll see a lot of weightlifters, when they're warming up, they'll do stuff with just the bar. They're just kind of priming those movement patterns, and they're also using a little added weight of the bar to help them into positions. It's not aggressively forcing them into positions, but it's going a little bit further than they would probably get from their body weight and gravity alone. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down to like a kneeling lunge position, and with our front foot we're going to stick a kettlebell or maybe a dumbbell on our knee, and we're going to let our knee track over our toes. Again, most important thing is we are keeping that heel pinned to the floor, because we're trying to work that kind of ankle angle, and if the heel starts coming up, we're taking away from what we're trying to achieve. You will get up to where you can get at the moment. That's totally fine. But all I want you to do is work within your own range and be trying to not force, but actively let yourself go further than you've been before. Again, spend 1 to 2 minutes on each ankle for this. So these are your go-to drills and exercises that I would use to start releasing off the ankles and increasing that range of motion in dorsiflexion. We looked at some kind of foam rolling, some myofascial release. You can do that with foam rollers, even with barbells, but again, we're staying off the bones. We're just staying on the muscles and the fascia for that. We can then look at some kind of just stretching using a dumbbell, and then we can move into some loaded stretching. One thing I urge you to do, and that is film your lifts. Look at your progressions, look at places that you need to fix, because not always are our weaknesses in squats coming down to our actual range of motion. Sometimes it's our movement patterns as well. So get aware of your body and see what's happening. One thing to look out for is that you have a nice straight line where that barbell is on your back, if you're back squatting. If you come down in your squat and you're on the way up and you find the barbell's gone way in front of the foot, the midfoot, you now know that the emphasis has shifted maybe from the quads and from the glutes and gone more to the back. So always fight for position and fight for a better exercise. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it for, you can always improve. If you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, please give us a massive thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. Any comments you have, leave them below and I will get back to them. Thanks for watching, guys.